Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sit this side. So we saw how out of the seen world, names, forms, variegated, seen world and the seer, broadly divided. The world is broadly divided into that which is experienced, objects of experience, objects which are so called because they can be objectified by various means of knowledge which are in my hands. Objects of experience on the one hand and observer on the other hand. This is a very nice way of dividing the world. And what is the advantage? The advantage is that the mix-up between the seer and the seen has a chance to unravel. The seer confuses himself to be part of the seen, because the individual body-mind-sense complex has components belonging to the seen and has components belonging to the seer. What are the components belonging to the quote-unquote drishya, seen world? What are the components? The components are body, seen. I see the body. Mind, seen. Oh, but I don't see the mind. But you sense it. You sense the presence of calmness. You sense the presence of restlessness. So the mind is an object of your observation. Sense organs, object of your observation. Everything is an object of your observation. And because it is an object of your observation, then what did we hear in the first verse? It is not you. It is anatma. Whatever is an object is anatma. So certain parts of what I consider to be I belong to the realm of the seen world. Drishyam Jagat. But then the seer is also there, hidden in this same body-mind complex. The body-mind complex belongs to the seen world, and what am I? The observer. The indweller belongs to the seer, and the place where the indweller occupies, the office of the indweller, the house of the indweller belongs to Drishya Varga, the group of objects that are objects of observation, not the subject. But since the two are found in the same place, there is a confusion. What is the confusion? The confusion is that there is a lot of what is that word? Mix-up. Mishritatvam is there, and what is mixed up? The I, which is living in the body, which is the seer, confuses itself for the seen. Fat, tall, short, thin. The body attributes rub on to the I because this vichara, this inquiry is not done. And then the attributes of the mind also seep into the understanding, or rather the misunderstanding of the I. How do they seep in? They seep in like this. I am restless. I am angry. And then the prana, things that belong to the prana, which is objectifiable, breathing, etc., that is also part of the seen world, but it seeps into the identity of the self-identification of the seer. I am hungry. I am thirsty. This is identification with the prana. The seer confuses herself, himself, to be part of the seen world. And that's not a very nice scene, because of which confusion one suffers. Because the identification is with everything finite, everything that is limited, everything that is just momentary. And because of that, there is samsara. Bhagavan does not create samsara. The mix-up creates samsara, and the mix-up is due to self-ignorance, atma ajnanam. Atma ajnanam creates samsara. And so, this is what the teaching here is. And then, this is why we have to, this is why the separation is very important. And how is this separation effected? The separation is effected first by allowing the teachings to percolate through the heart, to assimilate the teachings, and then and if that is not enough, then to do some contemplation. Nididhyasana. Asangoham, I am uninvolved with the body, with the mind, with the senses. I am Purusha, I am Bhagavan, I am non-separate from Bhagavan. I am Purna, I am fullness personified. And then what else? I am Nitya Shuddha Buddha Mukta Atma. I am the I that is always the same, unchanging, always free of papa, punya, guilt, hurt, and always of the nature of knowledge, I am. This has to be repeatedly brought back, and it becomes a kind of a meditation that is called contemplation. Contemplation cannot be done before the knowledge is understood, because otherwise you don't know what you're contemplating on. And so once you gain the knowledge, but you see that there is a gap between understanding it and then owning it up, then the contemplation is very helpful. So this mix-up is going to be discussed a little more in the next verse. Let us look. Avidyopadhiko jivaha Mayopadhika Ishvaraha Maya Vidya Gunatitaha Then, if the indweller, who is the seer, is separate from the body, then who is this seer? Okay, I know I am separate from the body, I know I am separate from the mind, I know I am separate from the senses. I know all that. But is that enough to know that much? No, because samsara still continues. That's not enough. Samsara still continues because, so what if I am separate? I am separate, but still I grieve. This doesn't bode well for the pursuit, because that separation between the seer and the seen is a rung on the ladder of self-knowledge. It's a stage in the understanding, a beginning stage. It's a rung on the ladder of self-knowledge for the jiva who is wringing her hands out in despair. So then, this is called what we did just now, the separation between the seer and the seen, and identifying as the seer is called Tvam Pada Vichara, an analysis into the word you. When I say you, what do you say? I. You don't tell me back you. Okay, yeah. So, when I say you, you understand it as what? I, aham. I will say tvam pada vichara, an analysis into the word tvam. But what will you think of it as? An analysis into the word I. So the I is not the body, the I is not the mind, the I is not the prana, the I is not the senses, and all this, you delineate the I as separate from its living space. Nobody says, I am the office, okay? Why? Because that's just a place I go. It's a place where I open shop. I open shop, I am there, and I just go, and then I come back. Finished. Lock it up. Finished. That's why I gave the example of office. Some people say, I am the house. That's why I gave office example. There is a kind of a strange identity. So I went to somebody's house for lunch. Okay? When sannyasis have lunch, it is called bhiksha. Fancy word. And still lunch only. So I went for lunch, and then it was a wonderful house, very well kept. I said, you have a beautiful house. The house did not say thank you. Why thank you? I'm flattered. Who said? The so-called owner. The so-called owner is not the owner. Why? Because the papers of the house, the deed is with the bank. Bank also did not say thank you. Bank did not say thank you. House did not say, I am flattered. Who said? The one who thought or who thinks, I am the owner of this house. First it is my house, right? And then after a while what happens? My house becomes me house. Very sad. But this is yet another way in which the mix-up operates. A permanent mix-up. And totally mixed up is this person. And this person, first we have to separate, and then we have to unite. These are the two-pronged approaches in Vedanta Shastra. First you separate with everything that the I is mixed up with. Body, no. Mind, no. Senses, no. Possessions, no. Including house. Me house, me spouse, me child. This is what people think. The spouse, of course, is an extension of you, and then the children are also what? An extension of oneself. That's why there is conflict between the parents and the children. You are coming with me dressed like that? And what does the teenager say? You bet. Of course I'm coming with you dressed like that. This is my body, I'm going to wear what I want. This is how I'm coming. What will people say about me? The parent says. So from this talk of the parent, it is apparent that there is some confusion. Because if the offspring of the neighbor wore a pair of jeans which had more holes than fabric, the parent is not distressed at all. And in fact, if the other parents are distressed, this parent becomes a Vedantin and says, they have their own karma, let them be. You have to have a little more vairagya. But when this parent's own offspring wears those genes, then how can you dress like this? Is this what I have taught you? All this sacrifice. And then it goes all the way to the immigrant experience. We came to this country just for you. And the teenager says, what do you mean? I was not even born. Don't lay your guilt trick on me. It's not going to work. And this is what is called generational conflict. Generation gap. Generation gap is best defined as the gap that is generated when there is a mix-up between the role of the parent and the so-called offspring. That's why those genes which have more holes than fabric and look all worn out are called distressed genes, because they cause the parents a lot of distress. So therefore, this mix-up goes all the way to the second generation, to the offspring. It goes all the way. And if it is not corrected, very soon one is in the doldrums. And so the correction takes 2 stages. Many stages are there, but here we are going according to the verse. 2 stages. Stage number 1, you first delineate the mix-up. Extricate the observer from all the mix-up. And the observer being intelligent, being a conscious being, a thinking being, an awareful, mindful being, endowed with buddhi, free will, etc., is able to understand, oh my God, yes, I'm mixed up with this body. When the body is sick, what do I say? I sick. I am sick. I am tall. I am thin. I am fat. I am short. The I goes and joins every single thing possible from the drishya varga, from the group of objects that are actually objects, have nothing to do with the subject. Stage number 1. Having separated and kept this like that, kept the I on ice for the time being, is the first stage. But this does not remove the sorrow for 2 reasons. One is the I can go back to that identification very, very quickly. It's like riding a bicycle. Even if you haven't ridden a bicycle for 50 years and then you had to pick up the riding, suddenly you have to ride a bicycle, it all comes back. Similarly, the identification comes back because there is a force of habit and the avidya has not been removed fully, completely. So the second stage is very, very important. When the I has been singled out and separated from this whole jagat, the world of objects that are seen and objectified, the second stage is to understand the nature of this I. Because in the first stage we have done na iti, na iti. What is na iti, na iti? Not this, not this. Not the body, not the mind, not the senses. Okay, but what is it? What is the I? The second stage is delineating the I and understanding its swarupa. And here in the verse that we just chanted, what is talked about? We have a new word. What is that word? Upadhi. We have the word Upadhi, best illustrated through the example of the crystal. And what is this crystal? Sphatika. And then behind it you put some color. The crystal itself has no attribute of color. It does not have color as its attribute. It is totally attribute free as far as color is concerned. No attribute. And then you just take a color and then here. What does it look like? Brahmachari. Yeah. Yeah. Now, the crystal is a sadhaka, is studying very hard, studying Vedanta very, very hard, has joined an ashram. Yes. And has been given a new name. What's his or her name? Crystal Chaitanya. Okay, yeah. So this is the brahmachari. Okay. And then what? Then like this. Now what? Got ordained into sannyasa. Crystallananda. Yes. Spatikananda. But then, is really Spatikananda? No. Spatika is free. Free it is. So what is this? And then what was the yellow color? Upadhi. A new word. Upa samipe sthitva swasya dharman adadhati anyatra. Definition of upadhi: sitting near something that which gives its attributes, lends is a better word, lends its attributes to something else. So here, what is the upadhi? Is it this is the upadhi or this is the upadhi? Cloth. Very nice. Nobody said crystal is the upadhi. Wonderful. So, the cloth becomes the upadhi for the crystal which is upadhi free. Similarly, this is the drishtanta example. In the darshtanta, in that which is exemplified, we can say that the eye is like the crystal. The eye is like the crystal, free of attributes, not just color, size, color, sorrow, fear, everything. Papa, punya, karma, free of all attributes. It is totally and completely attribute free. What? The eye. And the color becomes a container, just like the color delimits the crystal. Similarly, the body-mind-sense complex, as though conditions this eye that is free of the body, free of the mind, free of the senses. So what is this eye? Consciousness, awareness. Because the observer, the quality of the observer is what? Observation. And the observerness is called awareness. I am aware of everything. I am aware of myself. I am evident to myself. Everything is evident to me. So the quality of this observer, the observer is totally attribute free. The observer is I. The observer resolves into this I, yet living in a finite upadhi, as though living. Okay, living is within apostrophes. As though residing in the finite upadhi called the body, mind, sense complex. Like even the space is as though residing in this Upadhi called pot. That is exactly what the I is. The I is residing in this body, mind, sense complex, but just like when you buy a house and move into the house, you do not become part of the house, correct? House is separate. House is put together for you. This is why we have a ceremony called Griha Pravesham, the ceremonial entry of the owner of the house into the house. So first we carry a photo of Bhagavan, Ishta Devata, Kula Devata, family iteration of Bhagavan or anything, whatever one worships, the favorite iteration, manifestation of Bhagavan, Bhagavati. That one is made to enter the house first, and then one enters the house. So when this is a very interesting logic and is a very important logic in the Shastra. Samhata means put together. Samhata. So this house that I have just built to move in is samhata, put together. Put together how? According to my comfort and my specifications, which I have already told the architect. This is what I want. The windows should be facing this, and the door should be facing here. And this is more convenient to have a shelf here. So make a little indentation in the wall to accommodate a bookcase. And this is where I want the door. This is the second story, and I don't want the staircase to go this way. Can it go that way? All this. It is put together just for me, according to my specification, because I am the one living in it. So you can't suddenly build a house and say, I forgot to put doors and windows. Then where are you? You're trapped inside that. So everything is already planned, intelligently put together. This house is, and all I have to do is enter, and I just have to use the key, enter the door, and then enjoy living in it. Similarly, this body is intelligently put together, the body-mind complex, which is the house for the I, that is free of the body-mind-sense complex. The body-mind-sense complex is intelligently put together. It has its own ventilation system. It perspires when it's hot. And then it has its own insulation during winter. It puts on more fat to be able to conserve the heat. It is just right for me, for the I to live in. This body is perfect, perfectly and intelligently put together, accommodating even the karma that one is supposed to go through living in this body. And then, so therefore it is samhata, put together. And what am I? Asamhata, not put together. And this is true. This is very pratyaksha. This is observable, sakshat. Everywhere you can experience this and see this. The house is made for you. You are not made for the house. The house is there to help you to have a secure place to live in. The house is put together. You are not put together. You are there to enjoy the house. And this is exactly so too with the body. Same thing. The body is put together. Body-mind complex, body-mind-sense complex is put together for the indweller to have, to have a place to be. The indweller, unlike the house, is not put together. Asamhata. So the samhatatvam, the fact that something is put together, is not for itself. Why did you build the house? If somebody asks, you say, I want to live in it. That's what you say. But let's say, suppose, you ask somebody, oh, you're building a new house. What are you doing with this new house? Are you going to stay? Is it for you? No, I already have a house. Oh, you're going to rent it out? No. You're going to give it to somebody for them to stay as a gift? No. What are you going to do? I just thought I'll build the house for the sake of the house. Nobody does that. Similarly, the body is there for that which is not put together. And the one that is living in the body is that is the first thing. Second point, the one that is living in the body is a temporary resident. Like you going to another city and having a hotel room. You go inside and then what? Put your luggage, go do all the things you need to do, come back, sleep, 2-3 days you stay, 1 week you stay, and then you check out. Yeah. Same thing with the body. Body, mind, sense complex also. You check in and you check out. Except the check-in and the check-out are handled by Lord Brahmaji and Lord Yama respectively. You don't handle the check-in. Check-in happens. Check-out happens. You can't argue with Lord Yama. Check-out is at noon. It's 11:45. I can stay for some more time. No. No. Time is up. And so the one that is living in this, what is put together, that which is put together full of attributes and full of difficulties because it's a product of karma, which the indweller has to exhaust. So therefore, some people have wonderful houses in terms of their bodies, wonderful cars to exhaust their karma. Okay? Some people have Mercedes Benz, all shiny, new, wonderful. While other people have the kind of vehicle called the body, mind, sense complex, which everybody has to get together and push, and then it will go for a few and then it will stop again. That kind of a body. Stop-start body. More in the hospital than out. But it is still an upadhi. It is still an upadhi. And some people have bodies that has to, can't eat this, can't eat that. First what? Gluten-free. And then the next thing, grain-free. Dairy-free. Taste-free. Then finally you live on fresh air. Everybody becomes a fresh airian. That's all it is. So some people have those kinds of bodies. Some people can digest a stone. Nothing happens. Very fortunate. But still, it's a house that is put together. This is the house you got. This is what it is. So the house, or the body, mind, sense complex that houses, so to speak, because how can the finite body house the infinite? As though, just like the pot, as though houses what is called pot space. This is just from a standpoint. So this is the upadhi. For who? The indweller, let us, Atma. But the Atma that is identified with this upadhi is called Jiva, full of complaints. The complaining one is called Jiva, associated with the house as though it is my own, and then associated with all the complaints, associated with finitude, associated with everything, Jiva. And then I look around. after complaining loudly about the body-mind-sense complex, about the horrible upadhi I have been given, I look around. And then what do I see? I see an entity which seems to have a limitless upadhi, if that is even possible. A limitless upadhi. Glorious. Who am I? I am in this tiny upadhi. And then, subject to the laws of the universe, one single upadhi I occupy, subject to space, subject to the vagaries of time and space, subject to the limitations of various kinds, desha, kala, vastutaha, all kinds of limitations I am subject to, whereas the other upadhi, which is calling all the shots, making all the rules, huge upadhi, which includes the entire gamut of universal laws, the giver of universal laws, the one who is the niyanta, the manager of the entire universe, having a glorious upadhi. Who is that? Ishvara. This is the difference between Jiva and Ishvara. Ishvara, free of Atma Ajnanam, free of self-ignorance. Jiva, holding on to the self-ignorance. Ishvara, no complaints because no identification with anything finite. Jiva, full of complaints. Ishvara, free of time and space. Jiva, bound as it were by concepts of time, concepts of space. Ishvara, infinite upadhi, Jiva, finite upadhi. Finally, Ishvara, not a whiff of ajnanam, no ajnanam, zero, what is that called? Ignorance. Jiva, in the lap of Mataji avidya. In the lap of ignorance, being embraced by ignorance. And so these differences are based on the upadhi alone. Upadhi alone. They are not essential differences. They are differences brought about by the difference in the upadhi alone. Like the crystal with orange in the background and then the crystal with the yellow in the background. So the difference in the crystal is because of upadhi alone. And so then what is Jiva? Ishvara. Not separate from Ishvara. What is Jiva? Shuddha Chaitanya, consciousness. The observer is consciousness, a conscious being. What is Ishvara? Consciousness. That which is, never becomes is not. Both Jiva and Ishvara is. The is never becomes is not. And then, that is the first thing. And then, what kind of existence does this Satchidananda enjoy? Does the observer enjoy? The observer, the truth of the observer is that enjoys an existence which is conscious. Conscious. Conscious means all knowledge. Oh, come on, I am not all knowledge. You are all knowledge. Generally speaking, you are all knowledge. First, we have to decide the meaning of the word all. Can we agree that all is equal to what I know plus what I do not know? Yes. Do you know all the things you know? Yes. Do you know that there are many things you don't know? Okay. You are all knowing. Simple. This is all it takes. All knowledge. Nothing but knowledge. A knowledge that is not even opposed to your own ignorance. That's why you are able to come here and say, I want to get rid of my ignorance. That's how. And so this knowledge is I know without the I know which never becomes I do not know. This knowledge is not cut up into knower known, seer seen, dyad, or even the triad knower, means of knowing, known. It's not cut up. Why? Because that which morphs as the knower is nothing but that consciousness wearing a hat called knower. And that which is understood as an object of knowledge is nothing but this consciousness wearing a label, I am the object of knowledge. And that which allows this knowledge to take place, that which bridges the knower and the known, sight, hearing, etc., through which the seer sees whatever is there to be seen, sight, hearing, all the means of knowledge, that also is nothing but consciousness morphing, as it were, into sight, hearing, etc. All this is possible because of consciousness. Consciousness is free of any one thing. All pervasive, ever present, limitless Ananda. Sat Chit Ananda, Satyam Jnanam Anantam, all the same, just different words. It's just awesome. Very, very beautiful. Because we have to see this very, very properly. We have to see that this I is free of the upadhi. Number one. And then what is the nature of this I? The nature of this I is conscious being. It is existent. I am existent. I am. I know I am. Because when you say I am, you are actually saying I know I am. A knowledge that is free of knower-known separation. And how long does this I am last? I am, I am, I am, I am, I am, I am, forever. And this is what one wants. One wants forever. One does not want the object of love. One wants forever. That is why even in the 5th marriage vows, they will say, this time it is forever. What happened to the other 4 times? Forget it. Don't talk about those things now. Forever. It is the forever. That is how it is. Even with a job. Somebody says, I got a job. The other person immediately asks, is it permanent? I moved into a house. Do you own it? That's what. We don't want the house. We don't want, the permanence is projected onto the house, onto the spouse, onto the children, onto the job. But the permanence is not connected to any one of them. The permanence rests in you, and if that is not understood, it is transferred on to the finite objects, and one becomes a permanent seeker, not the seeker of the permanent. Seeker of the permanent means at least there is hope. I will find it. If you're a permanent seeker, always looking, very sad state of affairs. So this is the Upadhi Bheda. Ishvara's Upadhi and Jiva's Upadhi are discussed. Jiva's Upadhi is like a wave, small wave. Ishvara's Upadhi, the roaring, full ocean, huge ocean. And then the Upanishad equates the wave to the ocean and then comes up with a sentence, Tat Tvam Asi. How to understand this? Especially if the wave has a human mind, it will just say, no, this is not possible. Ocean is God. I am odd. I can't be the ocean. How can I be the ocean? No, 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 no. There is some mistake. It will not believe. Because what is it believing? It is believing all that with which it is badly and fully identified. Its waveness, its past. It had a birthday. Oh, you should have seen me when I was born. My mother and father says I came out roaring. And then I became a breaker. You want a photograph? Here's a selfie. Look, me as a breaker, me as a surf. And then, you know what? I was born under wonderful stars. And then I became a tsunami. Had 25 villages for breakfast. No problem, just swallowed it all up. And look at me now, old, tired, can't even make it to the shore, and then I'm pushed back by the younger, stronger waves. What's happening to respecting the elders these days? I don't know. I'm tired, I'm old, and I just don't know what to do. So sad my life is now, helpless. Then another wave comes. Waves to this wave. Hi. How come you're so happy? And the other wave says, I was going to ask you a similar question. How come you're so sad? What happened to you? And the wave gives it its whole autobiography. Sad. 2 marriages both gone. Children grown up gone. Dead-end jobs, one after the other, gone. What is this life? Born, gone, born, gone. And the wave which is from the Indian Ocean. What does it say? You are not a wave. Wave is just a upadhi. It's just an upadhi. You are not a wave at all. Who said you're a wave? You're not a wave. No, I'm not a wave. No. What am I? You are the ocean. Oh, no, no, no. I already told you ocean is God. What are you made up of? They say I'm made up of water. What is the ocean made up of? Water. So if somebody wants to touch the ocean, can they touch you and say that they have touched the ocean? Yeah, I suppose. You are the ocean. Really? Yes. What do I have to do to understand this? Nothing. You're understanding it right now. Attend the next class. That's what you have to do. Let this go in. Internalize it. Own it up. Assimilate it. And assimilate it and keep listening until you know without a shadow of doubt, of error. Or vagueness. Until your knowledge is free of vagueness. Until your knowledge is crystal clear. Listen to this. Let this knowledge take you. You don't try to grasp the knowledge by the horns and say, I got this knowledge. You are nobody to get this knowledge. You allow the knowledge to percolate. You allow the knowledge to transform you. This looks suspicious. How is it going to transform me? It's going to transform you by rewriting your autobiography. Chapter 1. Why me? This is the Jiva's autobiography. Chapter 2. It's not my fault. Somebody else's fault. Chapter 3. Terrible background I have. Chapter 4. I want this, I want that, I want this, I'm not getting this, I want this also, I'm not getting this. Oh, then chapter 5 must be conclusion. No, no, no. To be continued in the next life. Same thing. Do you like the story that you have written about yourself? No, says the wave. Okay, then keep quiet. Listen to the story that I have of you, says the teacher wave. Listen to the story that the Upanishads have of you. It's a new Upanishad which has seldom been studied. It is called Vevopanishad. Oh, what does the Vevopanishad says? Vevopanishad says, you are ocean. Wave is just a little roll. Wave is the container. Maybe it is finite. It has to be finite because everything that is there is finite, except the one who says all that is here is finite. That one is infinite, everything else is finite. Wave, just a incidental to you is the wave. Whereas your identity as one with the ocean is intrinsic to who you are. The cause of sorrow is because you have mixed up that which is incidental, thinking it to be intrinsic. Like even clay is intrinsic to the pot. Yes? Yes. But from the standpoint of clay, is pot intrinsic to clay? No. Pot is an incidental expression of the clay. Just like the wave is an incidental expression of the ocean. Just like the human body, mind, sense complex is an incidental expression of this consciousness, free of any attributes, free of any finitude, free of any limitations. It's an incidental expression. Therefore, you are the ocean. The oneness is revealed where? Not at the level of water. The wave doesn't get enlightened if it is compared to water. Nothing happens. The problem is there is an ocean. Something that makes me feel constricted. I am under the lordship, the overlordship of the ocean as a wave, and I can't stand that. I want to be my own boss. I don't like anybody else bossing over me. So therefore, the equation is between the wave and the ocean. So first you undress the wave, shake off the upadhi. What do you find? Water. And on this side you take away everything that is the upadhi from the side of the ocean. Glorious, roaring, huge, big. You take away. What is left? Water. That Satchidananda is intrinsic to both the definition of Jiva and Ishvara. The upadhi comes, the upadhi goes. Therefore, the upadhi is what? Incidental. And so with this, we can look at the verse. Avidya upadhikaha jivaha. Jivaha, the complaining one, the individual, has got a upadhi. Oh yes. Now I know the meaning of upadhi. It means body, mind, sense complex. Yes, but here the word upadhi is used in a very subtle and special way, because it is trying to look at what is the separating factor between Jiva and Ishvara. So the Upadhi becomes avidya. Ignorance itself becomes an upadhi, and unlike the body mind sense complex, it is not easily objectifiable because ignorance is subtle, not gross. It is sensed, but it cannot be objectified as something that is there. It is sensed because I suffer from it, and it goes away in the wake of knowledge, and so the ignorance becomes an upadhi for the jiva. But how do I understand it? It's like the jiva, asked for an upadhi. It's like a person sitting with a dunce cap in the corner of the room. I don't know anything. I don't know who I am. I may have to repeat this grade. This is how. And what is the upadhi for Ishvara? If the upadhi for Jiva is ajnanam, ignorance, then what is the upadhi for Ishvara? Jnanam, all knowledge. All knowledge of the particular, of the general, everything. Maya upadhi. Maya upadhi means all knowledge. Yama, sa maya. Ma means knowledge. She who is all knowledge is the upadhi for Ishvara. It is what makes Satchidanandam Brahma into a conscious being endowed with the causality of being responsible for the Jagat and being invested with the title of Creator, Karta, Dharta, Sustainer, Samharta, Resolver. This is an incidental definition of Ishvara. Why? Because the Jagat comes, the Jagat goes. When the Jagat is there, the causality is ascribed to Ishvara, and Ishvara gains the epithet having Maya as the upadhi, all knowledge, being the cause of the universe, etc. So this is a definition of Ishvara that comes and goes. Therefore, the definition is called Lakshana, and that which comes and goes is called Tatastha Lakshana. Like when you say, such and such a person is the CEO of this company. CEO means, was that person the CEO from birth? No. And let's say 2 years later the person retires. Still CEO? No. Or joins some other company. So no longer associated with the chief officer status. The status of chief officer comes and goes, and then the person is separate from the status. Similarly here, the person here, the Purusha, Ishvara, is separate from the status, the cause of the universe. The cause of the universe is a relative status which we have to discuss only when the universe is there in a manifest form. Then only it can be the cause. Otherwise, it simply is what? Satchidananda. So when that cause of the universe is there, when the universe is manifest, when we are living in a manifest universe, then only this Mahavakya, this equation will work. Why can't I wait to get this knowledge when everything goes under and there is no more Jagat? Then if there is no more Jagat, you will not have a body, you will not have a mind, you will all be resolved into Ishvara. And where are you going to get Guru? Where are you going to get Upanishad? Nothing is possible. So this is when we have to learn, this is when we have to study in the manifest universe, because that is where the separation between the Jiva and Ishvara pricks, hurts, pains, and there is a longing. Avidya upadhikaha, endowed with a kulok, What kind of a cloak? A thick, heavy cloak through which the jiva cannot see anything. Sad cloak. Wet, damp. Maya upadhikaha Ishvaraha. Maya, all knowledge, plus the Shakti to create. That's why in the tradition, all the manifestations of Ishvara are happily married. They all have their consorts, inextricably linked. It's just so beautiful. Shakti and Ishvara cannot be separated. All just one. So, then this Maya upadhikaha Ishvaraha. And then Avidya upadhikaha Jivaha. And essentially, what is the Jiva and Ishvara? The oneness is pointed out in the second line. Maya avidya gunatitaha. Atitaha, beyond, transcending. Transcending this Maya on both sides. All knowledge of specific things. And then all ignorance. Transcending both the status of being the all-knowledgeable one and the status of being the one wearing a dunce cap. Transcending both is the identity. Then avidya, transcending the ignorance of everything, ignorance of the self, and transcending the three gunas, sattva, rajas, tamas. Or you can say the avidya itself is the guna, and transcending that is the identity between the two. This is the drumbeat of Vedanta. So therefore, the wave is equated to the ocean by an elaborate operation. First, you get to the truth of the wave as water, and then you go on the other side of the equation and get to the truth of the ocean also as water, and then the identity between the two is revealed. Both are water. The identity itself becomes an incidental expression, not intrinsic to that entity at all. This is how an equation operates. An equation is that which looks dissimilar but hides, apparently dissimilar but hides an underlying identity. An underlying oneness that has to be discovered. 5 plus 5 is not an equation. 5 plus 5 is equal to 5 plus 5. That's not an equation. What is an equation? 5 plus 4 is equal to 100 minus 91. What? And if one is in 4th grade, they cannot say, I believe you, teacher. Yes, whatever you say is correct. They have to see this, they have to understand this. And each side you have to do. You have to do the operation on each side. Plus side, this side, minus side, the minus on the other side. Before it is very flummoxing. Single digits, plus sign. Double digits, minus sign. How can they be the same? The child is frightened. How can they be the same? You have to work out each side, and then you see that the sum of the two is identical. Same thing here. Jiva side, everything that doesn't belong to the jiva is given up cognitively. Body comes and goes, the mind comes and goes, everything that comes and goes, upadhi comes and goes. Upadhi is put on one side, cognitively separated. What obtains in this upadhi is Satchidananda, that is there. I exist, I am, I know, and I am all the time. The same unchanging, motionless I is able to understand the motions. Then on the other side, we do the same thing to Ishvara. Take out the glorious upadhi of the one who is manifesting this universe, the one who is sustaining this universe, etc. And what is there? A conscious being. A never-ending, all-knowledge, conscious being. When the same thing comes on Jiva's side, a never-ending, conscious, all-knowledge, conscious being that transcends the knower known and supports that which is knower, supports that which is known without being either. And the two are one. And this is what is the essence of the knowledge in verse 31. And then the subsequent verses are going to develop them a little further. We'll see later. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadagya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.